An out of body experience, I know personally for me, I literally, well, it first starts off where my body starts to buzz, and then I physically feel the feeling of coming out of myself. I feel the feeling of the and then when I go back in, I feel the going back in. Okay, well, for me, I've been a lifelong experiencer. My experiences, as far back as I can remember, started at the age of 3.
Hmm.
And at the age of 3, I began to be able to communicate with an entity that was outside myself, I guess you could say. And and that communication with that entity has traveled with me throughout my entire life. And by the age of 5, I began to have what I've now learned to be called out of body experiences. I didn't, of course, at the age of 5, I didn't understand or even have the knowledge of knowing that that's what the name of it was. But, and for me, when it happened the first time, being that I was only 5 years old, I didn't understand why my insides were coming out of me, and I was in a different place. Basically, I was in a different realm, is what I have come to call them now. And in that realm, I was able to go wherever I wanted to go. I generally didn't go very far from my body, though. It would just usually be in the general area of my neighborhood, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what the feeling of what was different about that realm compared to this realm is I was in pure bliss. It was joy. It was it was love. It was just pure bliss is the best word that I can put on it. But then I would have to go back to my body. And when I would have to go back to my body, I would see my body laying there and I would just start fighting tooth and nail. I don't want to go back into that body, you know? And that became something that once it happened the first time, it began to be something that happened all the time. So
Hmm.
that became something that was very normal in my life for me to have out of body experiences. And as time and years went by, I began to get used to it. It just became normal. And for me, as a 5-year old or even a 6, 7, or 8-year old, I assumed that that was normal and that everybody else was experiencing the same thing. And that was the normal human experience. So it wasn't until I hit middle school, somewhere around 7th or 8th grade, that I began to talk to a couple of girls that I would randomly hang out with. And I started telling them where I traveled the night before. I began to tell them, this is where I traveled. Where'd you guys travel last night? And that's when I realized that that wasn't something normal because they're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you come out of your body? And so that's when I realized it wasn't, I realized that it wasn't normal. So, so at that time, I had come to the understanding that this was not something that happens to everybody. So I began to keep quiet about it and just kept it to myself and continued on with my own personal journeys of what was happening to me. But once I got into my early 20s, that's when I had what I guess people are calling a Kundalini awakening or whatever. For me, I had no name for it. I just knew that something spectacular had happened to me. And now I'm just going to say for myself now, I'm not affiliated with the church. I don't claim to be Christian or anything like that, but at that time I did start attending a church because I thought that that's where I was going to find people like me.
Hmm.
They were always talking about this God and this, that, and the other. And I assumed that that was the entity that I had been speaking to my whole entire life. And so I started going to this church. I was only about maybe 3 weeks into it. And I was completely lost. I had no clue what these people were talking about and what the preacher was preaching. None of it made sense to me because it didn't match up to what I had experienced since the age of 3.
Mm,
So, but at the end of at the end of every church service, the preacher or the pastor would say, if you want to dedicate your life to God, come up front, we'll do a simple prayer, and then you could either dedicate or rededicate your life to God. Well, in my mind, because I really didn't understand anything that was going on in the church, I knew that I had silenced myself after middle school because the girls told me they weren't experiencing what I was experiencing. I felt like I needed to rededicate myself to God, even though I'm speaking to that entity every day, all day, just keeping it to myself, you know?
okay.
So I went up to the front of the church like everybody else did, and I kneeled down, and this little old lady came and prayed over me, laid hands on me and prayed over me. And what happened to me is my whole environment instantly changed.
Mm,
I was still in the church, but everything became more vibrant. And in front of my face was this veil. And the veil wasn't just in front of my face, it actually took up the whole front of the church.
mhm,
It was just this veil where I could barely see through. And as I'm trying to look, it starts to roll up like a scroll. And as it was rolling up, the colors and the vibrance that was behind that sheen was so vibrant. It was so beautiful. The 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 feeling that I felt was this pure unconditional love. And so it rolled all the way up to where now I'm seeing the full pulpit again. I look around and I can see, all the people in the church just like normal, except for everything was lit up with vibrance. That's the only way I can describe it. And instantaneously, I knew everything.
mm,
And what I mean by everything is I knew everything that is opposite of what I've been told my whole entire life or ever knew.
mm,
I knew everything. I could see the hearts of the people inside the pulpit there. And I assumed that everybody that walked up to the front of the church, that what was happening to me was happening to them. But I knew instantaneously that it did not happen to anybody else in that church that came up front. And I knew instantaneously that everybody in that church building had no clue what I all of a sudden know.
mm,
And not only did I know everything that I was experiencing there in that church building, but I all of a sudden knew everything in the whole world, like in the whole universe, like this massive download of information just instantly came inside me, and I knew that I'm never going to be the same again.
mm,
I just knew that my life just instantly changed, and it only happened to me.
mm,
So I left that building, and I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I just began to tell everybody, you have a veil over your eyes and you're not seeing clearly. That's the only words I could get out of my mouth was, there's a veil over your eyes and you cannot see this world clearly. And so 2 weeks later, after that experience, I ended up having a near death experience.
mm.
So now at that,
Basically, what you've been having before is out of body experience, but now you're having near death experience. Is that correct?
right.
So can
Yes.
you can
And an
you
out
just
of body,
can you tell me the difference between the two? Yeah, the two experiences.
yes. Yes. So, an out of body experience, I know personally for me, I literally, well, it first starts off where my body starts to buzz, and then I physically feel the feeling of zhit coming out of myself. I feel the feeling of the zhit, and then when I go back in, I feel the zhit going back in. So now for my near death experience, I'm gonna have to give you a little back contents of it. I had went through a very traumatic event where I had major injuries to my head and uh and other parts of my like brain area, like brain injuries. So I was having these spells that where I would just be sitting or standing or it wouldn't matter what I was doing, and I would instantly black out and be
What
not conscious for a moment in time
what
at
was
day.
responsible for the injury? What was responsible for it?
It was a injury from my ex-husband at the time.
All right.
And where I was at, I was living in a protective custody home where I was being protected, where I was not able to be found. You know, I was being protected so that he would not be able to find where I was at. And so, and there were other girls there too. It was just girls.
Yep.
And so this specific day, which was exactly 2 weeks from that experience that I had at the church pulpit, I was walking to my room that was assigned to me. I had my own room. Everybody had their own room. And I went and sat on my bed, like how I'm sitting now, and I didn't do anything more than just lean back like this on the backboard. And instantly, I was transported to a whole nother place. It was instantaneously, I was leaned back on my bed, and instantaneously, I was gone. So now, what I think happened to me was one of those things that were happening where with my brain, where my brain, everything was shutting down. The doctor said that he thinks that I'm having non-epileptic seizures, which they're seizures where your whole brain just shuts down for a split second and then it comes back up again because it has to. It's so wore out that it has to stop for a moment in time. So and those were happening to me all the time, but this time is the first time that this happened to me in
Hmm.
those experiences. So I was instantly transported to another place that was similar to Earth, but it wasn't Earth because everything there, just like what I experienced at the church pulpit, the flowers, the trees, the grass, they were the most beautiful colors that you will never see these colors on Earth. You can't even mimic these colors. They were so beautiful, they were so bright, they were so translucent all at the same time, and they all seem to be breathing, is the only way I can describe it. So
Hmm.
as I'm seeing these colors, I got these two beings, one on the right side of me, one on the left side of me. And now we're walking down this dirt road. And off to the distance, to the right of me, is this castle structured building that is like old timey, as in it was more like brick type, like not bricks like this, like brick structure. So you know how brick structure in say 2000 years ago or whatever,
Yep.
they don't have like colors on them. They're the color of the rock. It's stone. It was a stone thing. So it was like more black and white looking. So everything around me was color, but this castle structure was the black and white of the color of the brick. And so we're walking, forward towards as if we might be going to that building. I don't know. I never made it to the building, but I look behind me over my shoulder this way, and as soon as I look over my shoulder, I instantly see like thousands, It could have been more. It could have went on for infinity. I don't know, but thousands of these beings that were like shaped like a human figure, but all they were light.
Hmm.
They were just pure light. And it was thousands of them. And the crowd of them just went like it just kept going like forever behind me.
Hmm.
And and as I turned my head back around, because I'm speaking to these beings as I'm walking, instantaneously in front of me was this big, gigantic, huge light. Like the light took up the whole front of my vision in front of me. It was like the sun, but it was like the sun had come 1,000 times closer than what it is now. It took up the whole front of your vision in front of you.
Hmm.
And instantaneously, I knew that that sun was God. Instantaneously, I knew that God was not a man up in the sky with a staff waiting to punish you. Instantaneously, I knew that God was this vibrant, beautiful light, and that is who I've been speaking to since the age of 3.
Hmm.
And the light of that light was in everything. It was in the grass, it was in the flowers, it was in the trees.
Hmm.
And not only, I forgot I left this part out. There, it wasn't not only these beautiful colors and beautiful flowers and trees and grass that I was seeing, but there was music that was in the air. It wasn't coming from anywhere. It was just there. And I don't know any other way to explain it. There wasn't like anybody playing instruments or anything. It was in the flowers, it was in the trees, it was in the grass, it was in everything. And that light was also in and went through everything. It
Hmm.
was part of everything. And I knew that that was God. That was who I had been speaking to since I was 3 years old.
Hmm. Beautiful.
So after that had happened, like I was instantly changed. I Whoever I was yesterday is not who I am today. I was instantly a completely different person. And I knew at that point I could never go back to who I was trying to be before. I
Hmm.
knew who I was at that point. I knew that at that point, I knew I was a powerful spiritual being. And they say it so well these days, having a human experience. This is just a meat suit
Hmm.
over that powerful spiritual being. And I didn't know how to explain it in that way, but I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I had to tell everybody that that this is not real, and that home is not here, that home is actually somewhere else.
Hmm.
And I ended up going through all of my friends, all of my family, all rejected me. I lost all my friends at that time because the experience was so mind blowing. And when you have an experience like that, you can't keep your mouth shut.
Hmm.
Every bit of every piece of you just wants to shout
Hmm.
out to the world that what we thought we knew was true is not true, and that the truth is way bigger than what you can ever imagine.
Hmm.
And that started my journey. And once my journey started, I began to have all kinds of powerful, powerful experiences.
Why should we believe God is responsible for this? And why should we believe that this has nothing to do with science? This has nothing to do with hallucination. And if you have anything that you need to tell people, skeptics, that are saying, hey, this is just a movie, this is what this person is narrating, doesn't sound real to them. So I think that's the perspective I want us to look at briefly, and then we'll round off, and then we'll find another time to continue talking about it. So the question is, Is God at the center of this? If yes, what is the purpose? What does he want from us? Why does he have to bring us to this world and then take us back to himself? And what is the purpose? And then at the end of the day, what do you have to say to skeptics?
Okay, so God is not what we've been told in the church. God is not a being. It is everything that is. It
Mm,
is the spark of light that is in everything and through everything. So in a more of a exact answer to who God is, you're God. I'm God. We are the I am. We are a physical form of God in the flesh. The way that the church has tried to portray Jesus as being God, we are all God. We are no different than Jesus. Jesus just came to the understanding of who he was, and they took his message and twisted it and made it as though he was saying he was God, but he was not saying that at all. He was saying that we are gods. He said that specifically. Do you not know that you are gods? He said, greater is that which is within you than that which is in this world. He also said, he also said that everything that you've seen me done, you can do and more. And thankfully they've left, some of the key
yeah,
things
yeah,
that were
yeah,
pro
yeah.
that
So the question is in the context of the creator, the person that
mhm,
created everything. That's the
yes.
perspective I'm looking at this point in
And
time. So
creation
if
never stops.
so
So you know,
the
it
person that started creation, that's the context I'm
has
looking at.
always been. It hasn't wasn't it's
N- n-
always
n-
been.
No one created
It's
anything. Is that what you're saying?
creation has always and will always just continue to create. It's not how we see it in our own
So
human minds and what we
you don't believe that someone is at the back of everything that is happening. Someone is the one engineering everything that we're seeing today, or someone is behind or is the architect of everything that is happening.
I think someone is us. The someone is us. All creation that's happening in this physical realm is us. We are creating. Everything that's going on in this world is being created by us. There isn't no outside entity. It's that which is within us. And we are not all that exist in this whole mass creation of all creation that never ends. This is just a piece of what was created by creation that never ends. Creation is always creating, it has always created, and it will always continue to create.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. I think that's a topic we also need to talk more on as we get along in the future. But at the moment, what do you have to say to skeptics? That what you're saying is just a movie script. What you're
I
saying doesn't really exist. What do you have to say to them?
Okay, so I truly believe that all of us, before we come into this physical form, I believe we choose our role when we do come in beforehand, before we come into this role. So those that are skeptics, they chose before they were born that that was going to be their role on this earth.
Hmm.
Any role, it doesn't matter what the role is, there has to be positive and negative. So somebody's got to be the bad guy, somebody's got to be a good guy in this role of this human experience. But no matter what your role is, no matter what you believed while you were here, no matter what you chose to be through this existence, when you shed this meat suit, we're all going back to the same place. We're
Hmm.
all going back to our original state, which is a powerful light being.
Hmm.
And some of us will choose to go into other universes, other galaxies. some of us will choose to come back into this human experience and continue whatever it is that they're looking to continue.
Mm.
So you can either
All right,
reincarnate or
beautiful.
go somewhere else, or where
Uh,
it doesn't matter if they're a skeptic.
oh,
That's what they chose to come in
all right.
as. And maybe that skeptic will have a near death experience, and then all of a sudden that alters and shifts, but that was all planned beforehand no matter what.
Mm, all right. So, thank you very much for your time today, Tammy. This is a good place to leave it for now. This conversation
Yes.
is going to be ongoing. Trust me, we
Hmm.
have
Yes.
a lot of things to discuss. We can't exhaust it. One of the things I'm always trying
Hmm.
as much as possible to do is to make sure that we're not having a very lengthy conversation because of the
Hmm.
viewers. Some of them might not really subscribe to very long conversation, so we'll make it very
Hmm.
short as we get along. So thank you very much once again.
Yes.